Cam Christie is a monster, a beast. He could be the next NBA Gopher, and he is the key to the upside for the Minnesota Gophers.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator, and recruiting assistant here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Now, I appreciate y'all for tapping in and being sure to hit subscribe, hit like so others can find the videos. But this week, it's going to be a little bit different for me because I've got some family things going on, positive things, so that's always good. But we are going to be recording the shows for this week, so bear with me if there's a tidbit here, breaking news there that ended up not in the show. We will be sure to cover it once we get back to the live everyday shows, but I wanted to be sure to give you content each and every day. So we're going to jump in today talking about Cam Christie, and he is showing a bright future for the Gophers. He could be an NBA level player someday. He could be the Gopher great, but his upside and how he plays really controls and dictates how this men's basketball team can finish in the 23-24 season. We're going to dive into that today, and then we're going to talk about what it would take for this Minnesota Gophers basketball team to make the NCAA tournament. And then finally, we got to talk about the women's basketball team because they're 2 games in without Mara. And you know what? This team has showed promise, but it also has showed it's maybe a little bit too young or too reliant and still adjusting. So we're going to dive into all those thoughts today. Be sure to hit subscribe so you do not miss it. But let's dive into our boy, Cam Christie. Cam, whatever you want to call him, he is a killer. Killer Cam should be his nickname. Now, look, he is the bright spot in this Gophers lineup program, you name it. He is a player that came in as a true freshman, has contributed, is the second leading scorer on the team as a true freshman. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what he could be potential-wise and what he can be even in this season. Now, he just comes off of earning a freshman of the week earlier this past week. On top of that, again, he's second in the team in points per game as a freshman, third best free throw shooter on the team, second best three-point shooter in percentage-wise on the team, nearly 40% from deep at 39.4. And in 11 outings of his 20 to 21 games, he has scored double figures. Now, that is great for Cam. That is great for the team, but he still has to get a little bit stronger when he's attacking the cup. He has a magnificent, magical mid-range game. His pull-up game, if he can find his spots, he has confidence. He shoots the ball, and it just looks like art, plain and simple. I absolutely love how he works in the mid-range game and also his pull-up three-point shooting. Both of those things have been getting more and more solid. The confidence is continuing to grow from a guy who already is confident, and you're seeing the repercussions. You're seeing what comes of hard work. So Cam Christie is definitely an exciting Gopher indeed, and I definitely think he has NBA upside. Now, some folks might be scared that he could leave due to NBA looks. I personally think he's going to need at least one more year back with the program. Now, his brother, I thought, also could have used another year, and he ended up going to the NBA, but he ended up being in the G League for most of it on I don't know if it was a two-way contract or not, but regardless, in the G League for most of his rookie year, and is now starting to get little glimpses of time with the Lakers here and there and showing he could earn more time, but still, maybe if he spent his time with Michigan State for one more year, that team has high upside. He gets maybe a first-round pick instead of an early second-round pick, and all of a sudden, he's contributing in this year that he would have been anyway. So I think Cam Christie will probably be back one more year just based on some of the things I've noticed, based on some of the relationship he has with his teammates and his coaches. And I think that he is going to most likely be back for the Gophers next year, and that can be massive. He could be the number 1, number 2 option on this team moving forward and even elevate what we've seen from his true freshman year. Now, like I said, has a legitimate weapon as a mid-range game, 3-point game, but if he can get a little bit stronger especially over the offseason heading into the next year. And he finds ways to attack the cup, get the easier baskets, but also draw fouls, which could be a huge asset to his game. That makes his pull up, that makes his mid range all the more deadly because you don't know which way he is going to attack from. And if he's getting to the charity stripe and starting to get a feel for his shot and knocking down those free throws and getting his touchdown and everything like that, then his mid range game is only going to get more dangerous throughout the duration of a game. So Cam's ceiling is massively high. And I think the more he starts to click and more he starts to figure out with this Gophers team, even in his true freshman season, the more games this Gophers team can win against quality opponents, go further in the Big Ten tournament, maybe sneak into the NCAA tournament, which we're going to talk about how they could do that coming up here in a little bit. But in the end, I think if the Gophers want to reach those goals, if they want to get to the tournament, if they want to have a shot at making some upsets and big swings in this 2023-24 season, then I think it stems from Cam Christie's upside. Players like him and Burrell Payne stepping into a whole nother level within the middle of this season will take this Gophers team from pretty good to potentially a scary team you don't want to see in the tournament or in a Big Ten tournament, a team that could make some noise in some consistent tournament style play. So overall, I think that Cam Christie is definitely a stud in the making for the Golden Gophers. Now, Coach Ben Johnson mentioned to me in the presser when I had asked about Cam Christie's confidence, what he's seen from Cam Christie and just the growth in that department. And I wanted to clarify, I know he is a confident guy. You got that from day one, sitting in on the all team presser, basically, or the team media day where we got to talk and chat and interview with all the players at an individual basis. And Cam Christie came off from the jump as a kid who knows, look, I can play in this league. I bring value to this team, and I am going to play my best ball as a freshman. He jumps in and he shows it, and he shows he's only getting better. But I asked Ben Johnson to talk about the confidence and the growth he's seen, and he just mentioned how he is an extremely confident player, and he loves that. He wants that for all his players. But Cam Christie just has that alpha mentality, that not afraid of anything, always in the gym, always grinding, always working, always trying to improve himself, but that never back down mentality. And I think that's not only extremely present on the floor, but as he continues to lean into that and play his game and be himself out there and realize it doesn't matter if these dudes are older than him, stronger than him, or anything like that, but he can hoop with the best of them. I think as that continues to come to fruition, Cam Christie is going to be a problem in the Big Ten for opposing teams. So definitely something that is exciting, something you can see on the floor, and something that I think he is taking personally to improve and get to his goals, which is professional basketball someday. Now, like I said, some might be worried about the NBA, and rightfully so. Maybe he wants to get a look and see where he would be evaluated at. But I think he'll be back for another year. Others might be afraid of the transfer portal, but I do want to say he picked to be here in Minnesota for a reason, and that reason was not lack of offers, lack of high-tier programs. Illinois offered, Michigan State offered, Iowa offered, Northwestern offered, Virginia offered, and among many others. He had the high big schools that have been ranked over the years and been to the tournament more often and all that. He had those offers, and he chose Minnesota for his relationship with the coach, the opportunities that were ahead. And I think he will continue to show the love and chemistry he's built with his teammates and the growth with his coaching staff that has invested in him and really wants to see him reach his goals and see him at his best. So I think overall, I wouldn't be too worried about things like that. Cam Christie seems like a Gopher to stay. And I think his upside is immense, not only for this season, but also for this Gophers program moving forward. Now, I think we're just getting started on what his upside could be. And the more he plays into that, like I said, the higher the level of ball this year's team can play at in the 23-24 season. But let's talk about the NCAA tournament. Let's talk about what it takes for the Gophers to get to the dance, because they're still in contention. They're still in the running. And I think it is more realistic than maybe some thought. We're going to dive into what it would take coming up next. First, I got to talk to you about our friends over at the one and the only, the Gametime app. Now, the Gametime is hooking you up right now. Now, talk about an amazing app that is one of the best, if not the best, in the ticketing space, because they have the best last minute tickets. They have the seat previews. They have the all-in options. Man, Gametime is definitely where it is at when it comes to finding tickets for the game. And you should really give it some consideration because they have an absolute steal of a deal right now, because it's the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all users, all of them, not just new users, all users get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with the code Vegas100. That's Vegas100 with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. So definitely give it a look. Get that seat view to know you don't have any pillars or anything that would be unideal in your viewing space. Make sure you like it, and so all the stress is gone, evaporated, and you can just focus on the game, on the concert, on the show that you are going to see, and enjoy it to the fullest. And don't forget to use promo code Vegas100. That's VEGAS 100. Now, terms apply, but just download the Gametime app, use promo code Vegas100 for $100 off of the big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Now, download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about that NCAA tournament, because the Gophers are still in the running. And you know what? I love that. I love to see the progression. I love to see it building up. But what would it take for the Gophers to actually make the big dance? Now, I just saw something go through this morning that was like, currently, as the standings are, these are the teams that I think would be in the tournament and the seedings and all this. And I'm scanning, and 6 Big Ten teams were listed as making the Big Ten tournament. The Gophers right now, I believe, are ranked or are currently 7th in the Big Ten conference. So they're right on the cusp. They're right on the edge. And so I think going out there and getting 20 wins on the season, that should be enough to get you into that talk, into the tournament, and into maybe a lower seed, but getting you into the big dance. But since January, we've been saying that you need to win probably 8 or 9 Big Ten games in that January and beyond portion of the season. Well, right now, they've got 4, possibly 5, depending on what happens with that Michigan State game. But again, I said I'm recording this a little bit early. So in that time frame, moving forward, you need about 4 or 5 more games. If you can get 4 or 5 more games, then you will likely get that 20-win mark, and you will likely be in the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. Now, with that, they have 5 home games remaining, 1 being Michigan State, which will have already played at this point. But beyond that, they have 4 other home games remaining. So if you can win those games, all your home games, then that will give you right around 19 wins, which should also put you right on the cusp of what we are saying could be a near automatic qualifier. Now, with that, you also need to boost your resume a little bit more. So a big win to add to your Northwestern win, to add to your earlier Nebraska win. Adding a couple more big wins onto there will only help your case. If you only get to 19, or if you only just get to 20, you have a couple resume building wins on there, and all of a sudden you're talking about a team that should look like a lock into the tournament. So you've got Purdue still on the schedule, Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska, Northwestern once again. If you can go beat Northwestern again, beat Michigan State, who you probably should have beat the first time, and beat Illinois, you add those 3 onto winning the rest of your home games, all of a sudden you're looking at between 20, 22 wins, and all of a sudden you're talking about a team that, like 22 wins, and you got a big win against a ranked team in Illinois, a Michigan State team that has played against some top-notch competition all year, and beating Northwestern twice, who has been a player in the conference all season. Yeah, that's definitely going to help the selection committee in wanting to include the Gophers. Now, even if you get 2 of those, that could be big time. And then on top of that, plus 5 of those home games, you're talking about a team that definitely would have the case to be made, a very strong case at that. Now, you have to beat the lower Big Ten teams. You can't mess around and lose to a Penn State or Rutgers or an Ohio State. All 3 of those teams are still on the Gophers schedule, and all 3 of those teams are in the bottom 4 in the Big Ten Conference. So if you want to make a case for yourself, you not only have to get 1 or 2 upset wins in there, get to that 19, 20 win threshold, but you can't lose to the teams that are seen as the bottom feeders of the division right now or the conference right now. You can't lose to the teams that aren't sniffing the tournament. You have to put those games away and make sure that they can't be counted against you to take you out of, if you're on the edge and on the cusp, those are the games that can bump you out and be the first four out, as opposed to a team that can slide into the tournament. So you have to win the games against those lower big teams. You got to pull off maybe one or two more resume building wins, and then you got to take care of the wins at home. If you do those three things, end up at around 20 wins or so, I think the Gophers have a strong case at getting into the NCAA tournament. Now, if you get above that 20 wins, I think you're going to be locked. If you get to 20 with that resume, I think you have a really good case. And if you get to 19, you may have a shot depending on the resume big wins and also how you do in the Big Ten tournament. If you can go get 2 to 3 wins in the Big Ten tournament, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this Gophers team, they had a pretty good year. They got 19 to 20 wins. Now they've made some noise in the Big Ten tournament, and all of a sudden you made the case. And you're at home for the Big Ten tournament, so it should be a little bit advantageous for the Gophers moving forward. Now, anything below 19 wins, and I think it's going to be tough sledding. I don't think you have a strong case, and it's probably starting to look more like an NIT at that point as opposed to an NCAA tournament. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, we all want to get to the NCAA tournament, plain and simple. As a fan, you want to see your team in the big dance on the upsets and the Cinderella stories and all that. And the Gophers, in order to have any sort of Cinderella story, you got to get there first. So overall, I think it is a possibility. Even if they get to the NIT, then go make some noise in the NIT. Go win the NIT. Go get to the championship game or something of the sort to show that progress and to show other recruits, transfers, that they could be the piece away from getting this team to the tournament next year in 24, 25. That could really help set this team apart. So I think overall, there's still a whole lot of possibilities on the table for the Golden Gophers. And I think Minnesota is clearly in the thick of it in this Big Ten. So they have a solid chance, but they have to finish strong. That's what it's going to take for Minnesota to make this tournament. But we got to move our focus towards women's basketball right now to close up today's show, because the Gophers have shown maybe they're a little bit too reliant on the youth, and that has in turn hurt them due to unforeseen circumstances. We're going to dive into it all coming up next. First, we got to talk to you about our friends over at FanDuel, because right now it's Super Bowl week. Everybody's excited. Everyone's stoked. You're going to get the best spot in the couch with the snacks, with the super bets and all that. And on top of that, you can bet on basically anything when it comes to Super Bowl 58, which player scores a touchdown first, who will score the most touchdowns, who will be up at halftime, how many points will be scored, the coin toss, you name it. FanDuel Sports, America's number one sportsbook, has you covered. So if you're like me, you're definitely going to be placing some super bets, and you are going to be having a great time. And new customers can join today and get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So go out there, get a little sample in there. Go pick an NBA game, an NHL game, whatever your other sport you like to enjoy watching, even maybe a Gopher game. Pick one that you think is a lock to be a win, and then from there, you place $5 bet. You win that bet, you get $200 in bonus bets to play away on the big day of the Super Bowl 58 this Sunday. So you can do all that by visiting FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. And if you win your first bet of $5 or more, you will get $200 in bonus bets. Definitely check it out at FanDuel.com/lockedon. All right, Gophers fans, we are wrapping this one up with Gophers women's basketball. Now they have 2 games under their belt without Mara Braun, and that was a big question mark. How would they handle it? How would they respond? How would the offense look? How is the scoring going to happen? And you know what? It's been tough. It's been rough. But regardless of Mara Braun going down to injury, there has still been some promising moments for this Gophers women's basketball team. But the team might be a little bit too young right now to be able to respond to such a devastating injury. On top of that, maybe they were a bit too reliant on Mara Braun scoring when things would fall apart or get stagnant. And that is now becoming crystal clear with this team. Now, that being said, it's still a new staff. It's still a really young team, youngest in the entire Big Ten Conference. and they are still figuring things out. So all hope is not lost. Now, maybe they're not looking at an NCAA tournament like we were hoping a few weeks back, but you look at the upside and the things that have been coming to after this injury, and you look at Janae Sanders at the front of that list, who has been stepping up for this team, back-to-back games with her highest scoring outings with 13 points and then 23 points. On top of that, defensively, they got lit up from deep when they played Michigan State. No way around it. They gave up, I believe, 9 threes in the first half, 12 threes in the game. They were just a step slow in the rotation. But those threes, that's what built Michigan State a lead at halftime, and almost a 20-point lead at certain points in the game. It was 20 plus. Those threes helped spur that gap between the two teams. But Minnesota cut that down to single digits by the fourth quarter, and they were back in this thing. Now, it's just finding the consistency, finding the ways to not fall behind that much. And I think this team can then start to add some more wins to the rest of this season. And I think that's what's going to be key for Minnesota, is not hanging its head, not feeling defeated, not getting too low, but finding who's the next woman up. And also, how can you get back into the win column? Because once you get back into that win column, that's when momentum starts to generate. So overall, yes, the defense was pretty off against Michigan State on the road. They're going to have Ohio State at home, but Ohio State is a top 10 team in the country. So I'm not expecting that one to go very smoothly for the Gophers women. Now, if it does, talk about a momentous swing for a young team missing their best player. That could be everything this team needed and more. But if they're not able to pull that off, you start to look at the next few games. Those are winnable games, and those are where you have to get it together. You have to have players step up. You have to have the youth of this team rally and show the upside of what could be moving forward once Mara is able to rejoin this team and they are at their healthiest. So overall, you look at Mallory High right now. She has been huge for Minnesota. She could continue to score more and get more consistent with her scoring. Her shooting from deep has been everything. Her rebounding and second chance points have been everything. If she can continue to develop that and maybe get towards averaging 15 points a game or so in Mara's absence, that will be a big development point for this young team. You look at Amaya Battle. Amaya Battle's turnovers are becoming detrimental to this women's basketball team. Now, I'm not saying I don't think Amaya Battle is talented. I'm not saying that she's not valued. None of that, because she's a baller. She has immense upside, but her turnovers have to be solved immediately. And we talked about this last year as a freshman and heading into the year 2 development. And we've seen a lot of development from Amaya Battle, but the turnovers have to be fixed ASAP, because in the 2 games that Mara Braun has been gone, Amaya Battle has shot 27% or less from the field, which is already not that great. But on top of that, she has added to the wounding by having 15 turnovers in those 2 games. So for comparison, with the low shooting percentage, she has had 18 points total in those 2 games combined and 15 turnovers total in those 2 games combined. Now, while she can do a lot for this team in all facets, assists, rebounds, steals, defense, scoring, she can do all of that. But it doesn't, you don't feel the full impact of it all. You don't feel the full positivity of that experience when the turnovers are coming at 8 or 9 a game. That's unacceptable, and it has to be cleaned up immediately, because if she can clean that up, that is when she can start to have the most positive impact for her team. She has to slow the game down. Now, I like the more aggressive scoring approach, but you got to slow your, they always say, what, heart on fire, mind on ice. She's got to cool down her mind, be able to see things slower, see things more calm, and keep the turnovers to a minimum. And that is going to be critical for the Gophers to have any more success in this 2023-24 season. Now, I really, really would like to see Coach Don Plitzowite get G Money, Grace Groholski, more involved in the offense. Now, we'll see if that happens or not. I know she's a true freshman. I know she's still getting kind of warmed up into it all, but she's played some massive minutes and showed she's a huge contributor for this team. But she can handle the ball. She takes care of the ball. And I think that the more she gets involved in being able to create for herself in the mid-range, being able to drive and attack the cup and be able to score on the interior, and then still have that 3-point game that has been strong for her all season, the more she can embrace that and grow in those departments, the more dangerous this team is going to be next season, with Mara Braun full health, Amaya Battle hopefully turnovers cutting down and being a massive distributor and scoring threat, and G Money being able to score at any level for this team. Once that happens, this team is going to have a very, very massive ceiling and a higher upside overall in their long term of things. So I think overall, right now, Grace gets used a lot as a space player or a shooter, which is what it feels like Minnesota is using her as. But I would love for them to let her take care of the ball more, generate more offense in that interior, in the mid range, and allow her to get comfortable in those facets to help increase the upside of this team down the stretch. Finally, if I could have my way, and I know you don't see it too often in women's basketball, I know you don't see it all that often in general, is the pick and roll game. If we could get that worked in with Sophie Hart, with our two guards, Janae Sanders and Maya Battle, and you let them create in the pick and roll game, maybe at the free throw line, you set it up there, and then you work Sophie into the post and allow her to score. You work on Maya Battle or Janae Sanders on the attack off of the pick and roll. Let them get a step on their defender and be able to get an easy layup or draw coverage, draw a help defense, and all of a sudden you've got Grace Graholski and Mallory Heyer on the wings to knock down threes. That seems like it could be brilliant to generate offense for this team that needs it so much with Mara Braun down. I would love to see the pick and roll game inserted more for this women's basketball team. We'll see if it happens. I'm not sure if it does. You just don't see it too often with the women's basketball game in the same elements that you do with men's basketball for college side of things. But if they can make it happen, it might be something magical to help spark plug this offense moving forward. Now, yes, this is a team that I had higher hopes for, but these were unforeseen circumstances with the Mara Braun injury, and it's struggling right now. And that tends to happen when you lose your best player, but there is still so much upside for this team in the long run, and hopefully they can learn, respond, and grow to close out this 2023-24 season. Now, that's going to do it for us on today's episode, but we still have more shows this week, including a show talking about the top Gophers for the football program in 2024. And we're going to talk a little bit more about men's basketball and the future of the program with guys like Isaac Asuma, Grayson Grove coming in, and what Ben Johnson is doing with an eye towards the future. That's going to be this week, so be sure to hit subscribe, hit like on this video so others can find it, and I will see you then. Row the boat, Sky Imago Gophers, as always, and don't forget to subscribe.